Zubaira Akhtar. I'm studying in this university BBA program and I'm also working as student associate in admission office. Today we have with us exceptional intellectual guest Mr. Nazim Saqib, who is a PhD candidate at MIT, and Ms. Dini Fatiha, who is MBA candidate at Harvard Business School. Mr. Nazim Saqib is a very tremendous creative person. He has achieved excellence in every field, from studies, from writing, programming games, and he is also a music composer in leisure time and whatnot. And of course, gorgeous Dini ma'am. She's a very fascinating person. She's fascinated about taking up creative challenges, and she's also working on researching a new project at St. Gobain. And we are very honored to welcome you two in our university. And first of all, I would love to congratulate you both on getting married.
Thank you.
Okay, and so how does it feel coming back home country after staying away for so long and coming back and inspiring Bangladesh youth about your vision? I think you will go first.
Okay, so it's actually not really too long. I have been here on and off, like in Bangladesh. I've been trying to work on this initiative called Kokopusho for a few years now, and there are other things that I've been doing on the side while I was studying in US. So, but in general, it has been a long time since I left Bangladesh, and it definitely feels like when I'm over there, more than at some point it used to be homesickness, but more than that, now it's more like, what can I do with what I have achieved over there, or the skills that I've achieved so far in US, and how can I give back something, whatever I can do to the students of Bangladesh. So that's the. So I'm in a more motivational state than like homesickness.
Yes. What about you, ma'am?
Well, for me, similarly, I've been back at least once every year. Over the past year, it's actually been, I think this is my third time back, so I've been coming pretty frequently. As far as what we're doing with Golpakushan goes, I'm really excited to be a mentor this year. I have not been a part of it before. But I was always into mentoring younger students, so whether it's formally or informally. I started it formally at MIT, and I did it for like 3 years, and I really loved it. I love talking to younger people, and often when they're bright people, they don't need much guidance. They just need a listening person. They just need a little bit of direction, and usually they do well for themselves. When I came to Bangladesh, I did a few other programs in Bangladesh before, and I'm doing Golpakusho now, kind of with the similar mentoring role. And this year especially, as I was going through the applications that I received, I think it's really wrong to say that we're the only ones who are serving, or bringing our talent to Bangladesh, and inspiring the youth, because honestly, when I was going through the applications, I was inspired. I messaged him at like 2 in the morning being like, these applicants are amazing. They're so talented, and I got so excited, and I was so inspired by them. So it's been a very good experience so far, and we haven't even started the program, so I'm excited.
Okay, I have a question. Did you ever think of getting into MIT, or did that just happen to you? Did you have a specific aim that, yes, I will go to MIT, this is my dream, or?
I'll go ahead with that. So no is the short answer. I didn't really. So I grew up a few years ahead of you guys, obviously, and even then, I think the flow of information was slower. I mean, I only opened a Facebook account when I was leaving Bangladesh, like after I had finished my A-levels. So it's a very different world now. Like people in 5th grade have Facebooks, right? So the flow of information was very much slower. I didn't really even know about MIT until much later in my academic career. So when I found out about it, I also experienced a lot of resistance, because a lot of women in our country do, right? Nobody wants to send you abroad. They're worried about your security. They're worried about what people will say, and all of these other things. And I try to talk about these things very openly because it's something I'm extremely against, and I would do anything to remove that. So I experienced the same things, and I was really lucky because I had a very supportive family and teachers, and they really pushed for me. They said, no, Vini should apply, and Vini should do what, she should try. And it wasn't really MIT. It was more of a, I want people to stop limiting me. So that idea, that I don't want to be limited by other people's ideas of what I should do, right? And so I applied to only 3 schools, and I got in to MIT, and I didn't expect it. I got in, and it was too late to kind of go back. I was in disbelief, and everybody around me who loved me were also in disbelief. But I'm really glad I did. I took the risk, and I had the courage, and I just want to tell everybody to take the risk.
Inshallah. And alhamdulillah, you got it.
Alhamdulillah, that's a great motivation for us too, because we also go through the similar problems. That why didn't you let me go to suppose Malaysia or Australia? Why? Because you don't have family members there, or
Support of family members
support,
is very
or
important.
something will happen to you because of the current situation. But I think yes, you have to take a risk, or else how would you explore that or not, right?
Absolutely. Sakib, do you want to speak to that question?
Yeah.
No, I mean, for me it was more like a linear process. I didn't really get into MIT in my undergrad, right? Well, actually that could be another motivational story there. I was rejected from MIT, right? In undergrad, when I was applying for undergrad studies. And I went to a liberal arts college instead. That's where I got full scholarship. Whoever gave me money, I just went there, right? And then it happened to be a liberal arts college, and even though I had like a technical mindset that I need to be like a scientist of some sort in the future, liberal arts college changed my perspective from in many different ways. And over there I learned about literature. I was a music minor, and like many other things like philosophy of science, history of science, how science is done, what is the fault of science, what is the social factors in science. When I like understood and like internalized all those philosophy, I think my perspective towards research changed, and eventually that led me to MIT, like for a PhD degree. So and I don't regret getting into MIT for my undergrad, because at that time I thought, okay, that's the end. Like I'm not going to a good university, I'm not getting a good undergraduate degree from top universities, so probably I won't do big things in my life. But I think that was more like a gradual process, and what I have done, and like now that I'm here and I can connect the dots, I feel very, very proud of what I have done, first thing. Second thing, if I was told that if you want to do something in a different way, I would probably say no. I would say that what happened to me was for the best.
Okay, so perseverance is a thing that kept you pushing, is it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, and there are ups and downs. There are many times that I failed. Well, literally, as in when I was in college, for example, I was taking very challenging courses. I was in first year, I was taking third and fourth year courses because I really wanted to challenge myself, right? And I had to prove to myself that I am worthy of doing very difficult things. And the result was I failed miserably. And my scholarship was about to be taken away because of like a very bad semester. And I learned to pace, like I have a certain pace. I learned to make peace with the fact that I will go slow, but I will learn as much as I can as I'm going. So I think all those perspectives and like all those experiences kind of made me more matured about life and how to accept failure and how to just have the courage to jump into the unknown, right? I mean, I still like do projects where I think these projects are unexplored territory so far, and I just go ahead because that attitude that I have built over the years, that helps me with that sort of mindset.
I have a question that is related to what you have said. In today's modern classrooms, creative projects, presentations, tasks, these are very popular. And we can see in BUNC too that they teach youngsters how to work in project-based assignments. Okay, but as we do that, suppose we are doing these projects, for example, social business competitions. Okay, the students are more focused focused on how to accomplish those tasks. They don't think about the creativity, the time. So what can students do? What are the tips you can give that do not just only focus on the completing tasks, but also learn from it? What tips can you give? How to motivate?
Practical skills.
Practical skills. What tips can you give?
I don't know, do you want to take this one first?
Sure, I mean, I can. I mean, in general, I think what our students, and it's not only our students, it's students worldwide, like, believe me, there are students like that even in big universities too, who are out to, like, do things in, like, you have a to-do list and you have to just check off. So, okay, did I get A grade in this subject? Did I take this subject? And, like, did I intern in Google or Apple, that sort of thing, right? So, I mean, there are tick lists that you just tick and, like, okay, that's done. But then I think that mindset is sort of detrimental, as you were saying, like, and I think that's the traditional approach. And more natural approach towards knowledge would be, as I said, just jump into unexplored territory and don't be scared to do so. Well, I mean, if you're continuously failing in something, then probably you're doing something wrong. So, I mean, you have to kind of reevaluate yourself as you're going. So, but at the end of the day, it's all about, exploring. We are here to explore. When we came to some university, and we're not just learning one subject, we want to take, courses from other subjects. And everyone, I think, has, like, some sort of gut feeling towards what they want to do. Like, I mean, and it's sort of like morning shows the day kind of thing, right? I mean, in this case, you probably know that, like, loosely you know that probably in field X and field Y I want to make some contribution. But then you don't know what kind of contribution exactly, but you wouldn't ever know if you don't explore. So if you're just taking classes, looking at a person talking at you every day, which is called lecture, and I mean, you're just doing that, and, like, you are just giving exams, you're getting A grades, you get to feel smart about it. But when you're given a real world problem, those class-based learning insights somehow just vanish, right? I mean, you can't really, so, I mean, the main point is just that idea of self-education. You have to self-educate to actually deal with a new problem. And just having the courage to kind of jump into unexplored territory, like, think about what problems you want to solve, and, like, start seeing how you can kind of start contributing. So one of my professors tell me that the best way to do something is to start doing it. I mean, it's a very simple thing to say, but I mean, it is actually, but it is actually pretty deep if you think about it, because most of us don't start doing anything. We just keep thinking that I want to do this, or probably I can. Exactly, right? We procrastinate, we go look up online, someone has done this, okay, probably I could do that. But I by myself am not doing anything. So even the baby steps that you take, like, even one step forward is a very big step when you are starting a journey like this.
I think I just want to add one thing to that. You asked a very important question, and the reason I took some time to think about it is because I'm hesitant in putting the entire blame on the students always. Sometimes what is lacking is a system or a culture that is nurturing of a person's interests. So I might be studying engineering, but I love it, and I'm studying business now, and I love that too. But I have a very strong interest in gender equality, and I study it by myself. I read a lot about it. I think I devote everything I study and read about and do has that component in it. I didn't really choose it. It's like I didn't choose it; it chose me. but I have that opportunity, or I had that opportunity in my schooling system at MIT, and in the kind of professions I chose. I sought out those opportunities. Where can I contribute even a little bit? I was an engineer by profession in a company that is 350 years old, but even then they struggle with the number of women engineers. So I tried to join a group where we promote women engineers in the company. So what I'm trying to say is that it's important for people. A lot of people are in their fields and they're attending competitions and contests in their fields, and it's a to-do list for them. I won't hold it against them if they have a passion in another field. It's okay. Find your passion would be I know it sounds super cliche, but find something you really want to do, where you want to make a change, what you're passionate passionate about, and then work in that field. It's okay. We can't devote all our time to all the fields. Sometimes I have a to-do list, and sometimes I do things just for the fun of it. So realize that there is a difference between those two things, and they don't have to be the same thing. You can be professionally something, but your interest and your talent and expertise can also lie in other things.
That's very insightful.
I'm glad you think so.
Here's a very sensitive question that has been circling in everyone's mind. We just want your opinion. Why are, according to you guys, why are terrorist organizations recruiting students from educational backgrounds with well-to-do families? What are the motives behind it? What do you think?
I'm just going to jump in. I think, so this is something else that I really like to study. Not a particularly terrorist organization, but the propagation of religious ideas. I think there's been a lot of research done on, just to name, ISIS, and how they recruit and how they incorporate people from different backgrounds. Their methodology is different by country. I'll just tell you that. So in Bangladesh, you see something very different than you see in the United States versus Syria versus the UK. You won't see a uniform background. In Bangladesh particularly, we've only really seen, or absolutely, I think, it's come into the spotlight very recently, I guess, with one or two incidents. First of all, just from a very purely academic perspective, I don't think we have enough data points. I hope we don't. I hope we don't get future data points, but I don't think we have enough data points to make a generalization that, oh, you know what, everyone who goes to NSU is a terrorist, which I hear a lot of people say.
But how could they, in such short span of time, could convince those students, they're not professional killers, to do such heinous crime?
Right.
What
so,
made them motivate so much?
Right. And the other thing, so I'm going to answer that, but just to go back to the you were saying, why are they targeting people from educated backgrounds? Education, just because I have a degree doesn't mean I'm educated. And what does education mean?
Yeah.
I can regurgitate an essay that I've memorized on paper, but that doesn't, I don't know if that reflects true education. Can our students think for themselves? When they are presented with a concept, can they raise their hand and say, I don't agree with that? And why don't you agree with that? Can they articulate it? Are they really learning to think? And again, I don't think, I'm going to say it again, I don't think it's only educated students, but even, I think there's a higher expectation of educated people, obviously, but then that begs the question, what are we actually meaning by educated people? So that's also important to understand.
I have something else to add. There's a comparison. Okay, you said that asking questions in classrooms. I won't generalize, but I have seen in certain schools or certain mediums of instruction that teachers themselves don't encourage students to
Speak up.
rebel them, to rebel their opinions. I think that also.
I agree with you 100%.
Well, I mean, so when I was in 9th grade, well, I'm not going to mention the school where I was. When I was in 9th grade, I remember I caught a mistake, and this is not just one instance, there were many instances. If some teacher teaches you something wrong, let's say like he's solving a problem on the board, and I say that this particular line is wrong, and like, I mean, I think if you fix it in this way, then you'll get the right answer. Then he would kind of, humiliate me in front of people, because he cannot like live with the idea or deal with the fact that a student can correct his mistakes.
Yeah, this
And-
is happening
and-
with every student.
As Dini said, like, I mean, it's not just the students' faults, it's teachers' mindset too. Like, we need like change in this whole traditional industrial age mindset that there is like a master and there is like a student. We still call teachers masters, right? I mean, in our culture. So I mean, and you cannot speak against your master, but that's not a healthy learning environment. And adding to the terrorist recruiting part, I think, yeah, at the end of the day, it boils down to if you're thinking enough. I would even say that our adults are not thinking hard. How can we even, like blame the students? The adults don't have the same energy to actually get into this sort of terrorist organization, and the terrorists wouldn't recruit them. Otherwise, you would probably see if you say the same recruiting pitch, if you give the same recruiting speech to adults, probably there would be more adults coming in. That would be like my like hypothesis. And at the end of the day, it's all about if you're thinking by yourself, given if you're presented with some data, are you verifying it? Now, there are geopolitical factors for which terrorists get like certain terrorist organizations get too much attention in different countries. There is that geopolitical factor, there is the cultural factor, and there is also the religious factor, how you understand religion. And at the end of the day, like a lot of these kids, I think all of us have a soft corner for religion. It's such a sensitive topic, it's such a sensitive issue that you cannot apply logic directly to many of the issues that are posed by religion. And in those cases, you have to be really careful that the aim at the end of the day, the ambition at the end of the day is not to harm anyone in the process of practicing your religion. So, and I'm not advocating that religion is a personal thing or anything. It could be many things, but we have to think like a scientist. We have to have a scientific mindset when we see what is the end goal. Is anyone getting harmed in the process? If someone is getting harmed, it's not only just killing people. Let's say, like, for example, female leadership. Like many religious gurus would say that female leadership is not allowed. So there are that sort of things that many things could come out of religious hypothesis. And at the end of the day, what we need to see is it logical, certain some of the things? And is it actually empowering people instead of discouraging and harming people? So I think when we have the end goal in mind, then a lot of the things would fall like in place when you're like approaching religion and this kind of mindset.
And not to drag this on for too long, but I wanted to say one more thing if you're done, which is the other thing I've noticed about Bangladesh and the youth that we've, I guess, seen from these backgrounds that I know from the incidents. I don't know. I think a lot of people in Bangladesh they barely know if they'll be able to afford lunch or dinner, right? A lot of our population, they spend their days thinking about whether I'm going to be able to eat, whether I'm going to be able to provide for my family. What happens when you get to more affluent families where they don't have that is that they have all this time to think about other things. And am I using that power? That's a good thing. But am I using that as a country, as a government, as a nation, as a people? Am I using that thinking and that thought process and that time in the right way? I think right now in Bangladesh, I mean, maybe I'm generalizing, but at least from what I see, I don't think we have avenues where we can direct all this young energy. There's these young men and women who are so full of talent, and they have not a worry in the world. They want to be a part of something big. They want to do something. They want to be a part of the rebellion. They want to be a part of a revolution. They want to change the world, and they can't. There are no opportunities. Here comes along a group, and they say, you know what, we're going to change the world. And that's how they pitch it. Well, even me, if somebody came up to me and said, I'm going to change the world, I would say, okay, I'm listening, tell me more. So it's really important to understand those things, and it's really important to create avenues so that we can engage these young minds in productive endeavors. So that's where I think we can do a lot. If we can get young people into creative fields, into more productive fields. And I think that it's called Popolution is a good way to